In my bunny vase video, a subscriber asked me if I was able to make a fairy sitting on a crescent moon. And this is what inspired me to make this dreamy, whimsical window ornament, or rather sun catcher. Come along with me to the journey of how I made this. As usual, there will be timestamps in the descriptions below for easy follow along. We are starting off making the moon by adding yellow color to a piece of foam clay. If your clay dries out too fast, just spritz it with a little bit of water. This will help. Use an acrylic block to elongate and facilitate the tapered look of a crescent moon. It will take you a little bit of time, but it's worth it. It will come out nice and smooth and very even. Now this moon comes with a little twist. I decided to emboss the moon with some gold powder. It's micro powder, and I'm using some embossing stamps. Next, we are making the base for the doll, or rather the fairy, by mixing the portrait tone of your acrylic paint with some resin clay. This is really important because you cannot achieve high detail with regular foam clay, which is also known as the soft clay. You can only do this with the hard resin type. By the way, you will be able to find the color ratios and the color mixing recipes in my description box below. I will also offer a downloadable free PDF file, so you can just print it out while you're making your own project, and you will always have the ratios and colors inside and handy. Here you can see me gently pinching and forming the head of the fairy with my fingers. Take your time and spritz a little bit of water onto your fingers if you feel like your clay is drying out way too fast. This will give you more time to work and manipulate the clay. Now let's move on to the torso of the fairy. I'm basically rolling out a piece of clay into a log form and then using my fingers to gently pinch and press to form the torso. I'm pinching the top part of the log to basically make the neck or the throat area, and then I'm pressing to form the bust. Let's make the legs of the fairy. Use an acrylic block to taper out the clay. Now, grab some scissors to cut the legs into the log. You will also need to form the feet by gently manipulating the clay. Use water if necessary so the clay does not crack. Resin clay allows you to form the legs into a sitting position easily. We're moving on to making the fairy's dress by coloring a piece of resin clay with pink and brown acrylic paint. Pinch off a small piece of clay and then press it with your thumb onto your palm to flatten it out. Scissors will help to cut out the necessary surface area that you need to create the dress. I'm doing the top here, and I'm also using the scissors to basically shape out a cleavage. Scissors are amazing tools for this, and don't freak out if you have any fray ends. Just use a silicone tip tool to smooth it out, or your fingers. Always use some water if you feel like your clay is getting too dry. Now we're inserting a tiny piece of wire to attach the bust to the legs. Let's create a skirt with the same technique already described. I'm removing the bust one more time to lay the skirt on top of the legs, and then easily just insert the torso back into the hole that we created prior with the wire. No body is complete without arms. Let's make some arms. In a moment, you will see me use a needle to define the fingers on the hand. I highly recommend you grab a pair because it works pretty well. Final blending and smoothing touches are always done with a silicone tip tool. Works like a charm. I'm also using my tool to define the nose and give a little bit more structure to the jawline and the chin. Off camera, I added a second pair of hands, and here I'm just defining the fingers. I'm using another piece of wire to add the head to the torso. Our girl is missing some magical, beautiful hair. So we're mixing some brown acrylic paint to more resin clay and lightening up with a little bit of light ochre. To shape the hair, just flatten the colored clay between your fingers, give it a roll with your acrylic roller, and then use your scissors to give it your final rough shape that you have in mind. I'm using again a needle to texturize the clay to give it some soft waves. Don't worry, this is not the final look. To give the hair more plasticity, I'm rolling out several very thin rolls of brown clay, and then section by section, I'm just adding them to the skull to give them the illusion of some locks. Our fairy is just missing some elfin ears. I'm taking some of the flashcard clay, pinch it off, form it into a teardrop, and then use my fingers to give it a pointy edge at the cartilage, the elfin ear. The star of the show, the needle, again giving us the texture of the cartilage. Now we're finalizing the hair by adding more strands and giving it a more seamless look. So making sure that the ear is not such a foreign object to the skull. I'm basically nestling the hair around the ear and covering more of the scalp. Let's add some features to the face by using a very thin brush and some acrylic paint to draw in eyebrows, closed lids, and a small pouty mouth. All our fairy is missing now is some magical flying wings. You see me cutting out the wings with some cutters. You don't have to use cutters. You can basically also just form oval or teardrop shapes and then just flattening them out with your acrylic blocks. It's not a must-have. For extra magic, add some glitter. Here I'm actually using a discarded highlighter. Yes, this is makeup, but it gives a really nice shimmer. You can also use mica powders, eyeshadows, whatever you have on hand. I decided to add some stars to my sun catcher, and here I'm just mixing acrylic paint, yellow, light ochre, and brown to my clay. It's resin clay, and just cutting out star shapes. The final decoration are some sage-colored clouds. I'm mixing white acrylic paint with light ochre and green acrylic paint into my resin, rolling it out, using again cloud cutters. You can also use your fingers to shape them, and then I will just set them aside to let them all dry. Once dry, I'm gluing the wings to the back of the fairy. You can use super glue or wood glue for this. To attach all the ornaments to the sun catcher, I'm using a transparent nylon thread. We also need to glue the fairy to the moon. I'm making sure there's something resting underneath the fairy's head so it doesn't droop while the glue is drying. Here comes the final assembly. I'm marking out where I want my stars to hang, and then I'm using wood glue to glue them to the frame. I do not recommend this. Just use super glue in the first place. It will hold much faster and much better. I actually had to redo this, learn from my mistakes. When you glue something to a wire frame, just use super glue. I use an eye pin to secure the fairy to the frame. For final touches, I'm gluing the clouds to the frame as well. Here's the final reveal. How do you like my sun catcher? If you learned something new or if it was helpful, please give this a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more whimsical goodness.